building a better Bay Area, moving forward, finding solutions. This is ABC 7 News.
Hi there, I'm Kristen Z. You're watching Getting Answers live on ABC 7, Hulu Live, and wherever you stream. We ask experts your questions every day at 3 to get answers for you in real time. Today, we'll take you to a San Francisco business that's being honored for its creativity during the pandemic. But first, today, the FDA authorized the Pfizer COVID vaccine for children ages 5 to 11, bringing it to just 2 steps away from going into young arms, likely before the end of next week. But recent polls show only 1/3 of parents plan to vaccinate their kids right away. Many more have questions. So here to answer questions so parents can make informed decisions, ABC 7 News special correspondent Dr. Alok Patel. Dr. Patel, Elora in the house.
Elora's in the house. I'm just delivering a little Halloween treat right now for everyone out there. She's rocking her my first Halloween.
Oh, were you on the ABC 7 Zoom where like you can get prizes if your little child is a cutie pie and has a great costume? Did you miss it?
You know, I did miss that. I probably just won everything. She doesn't have a costume on right now. She's just giggling, but she wants everyone to see her skull and bones booties.
Oh my gosh.
That matches my sweater.
She would have cleaned up, and you guys are quite the pair. I love it. I award you the best Getting Answers 3 p.m. costume of 2021. So congratulations to Alok and Elora.
See, thanks, Aunt Kristen.
Aw. All right, I'll take that little kiss right there now, Laura. Okay. Oh, she's gone. Okay. Well, now it's just us. It's less cute, but nonetheless very informational because we're going to talk about COVID vaccine for children not as young as Laura, but 5 to 11-year-olds. So that's the big thing. So I know you've prepared a 2 truths and a lie for us to get started.
You know how it goes, and I know our viewers know what to do here, and that's called helping Kristen. So tell me which one of these is not true. Is it A, the Pfizer vaccine for children is a lower dose primarily to increase distribution while maintaining protection? Or is it B, nearly 2 million children ages 5 to 11 have tested positive for COVID-19, with more than 8,400 needing hospitalization? Or is it C, no cases of myocarditis in young children were noted in the Pfizer trial? Which one of these is not true?
Keep that up there, please, producer and director, because I need to see this. And viewers, if you're on YouTube or Facebook Live, please go ahead and input your answer now. I personally believe C is true. So let's rule that out. B, I think, is true, although I just saw a study, an article in the New York Times about how federal scientists believe that more than 40% of children ages 5 to 11 have been infected, which I was going to ask you about, but that's later. So I think I'm going to go with A, but let's see what some people are saying. Yeah, okay, so Vivian says A, Randy says A, Tom says A, Linda says A, Rachel says A. So my inclination to go with A is being supported by our viewers. So final answer, A is the lie.
I clearly did not make this hard note, but A is in fact the lie. But I think it's an important note to address people because yes, this vaccine is 10 micrograms versus 30 micrograms. It's 1/3. And the reason that this was done, this was selected for in the trial because this small dose gave those kids the same antibody response as older populations. But the FDA and Pfizer believes that the smaller dose is more likely to produce less of those side effects, even things like systemic side effects like headache, fatigue, fevers, etc. And so it'll just be a overall better safety profile. B is an important one. You know, I don't personally like the fact that, you know, a lot of headlines out there, a lot of posts we see on social media are only talking about death as the only outcome we should care about in people who are getting COVID-19. When there's many children out there who have needed hospitalization, gotten inflammatory conditions, or kids that are going to go on to develop long hauler COVID symptoms. And the vaccine will prevent all of this as well. And C is important. A lot of parents are asking about that heart inflammation, and no cases of myocarditis were seen in the trials. And that is very good news.
All right.
Good job, viewers.
Indeed. Okay, because I was going to ask you more about myocarditis because that seems to be a big worry for a lot of folks. So we'll talk about that later. But right now, let's get into the booking appointments part because I know we're not about to put them in arms yet because it still needs to go through the CDC, but you think by the end of next week, right?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, let me make sure we're not slipping into, we're not. Okay. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to inadvertently give you an answer for the next round of 2 truths, but
oh, right. Okay.
The advisory committee for immunization practices from the CDC, who, by the way, this is what they do. They review vaccines. Every vaccine that we give routinely to children, they review them to make sure they're not only safe and effective, but they review them to decide which population should be getting them. They're going to meet on November 2nd. to, kind of review everything, make the final recommendations. And CDC Director Walensky gives that final stamp of approval. And then thanks to the plan that the White House is rolling out, these vaccines will be available in something like 25,000 different pediatrician clinics, community health centers, rural health centers, and places for parents to go and get their kids the vaccine, with a note on equitable distribution, which is very important.
Okay, so let's talk about booking appointments, because there are many ways parents can go about it. There's the pediatrician's office, there's the school site, and then some counties are offering their own clinics. So I guess for a parent, if you've already decided you want to get your kid vaccinated, which of those is the best way to go?
Honestly, it's whichever one is the most convenient, and it's whichever one parents have access to. And, fortunately, what we've seen so far is that in every community, there is a place where parents can go, whether it be a local pharmacy or a school vaccination site or the pediatrician site. But Kristen, you bring up a good point, because next week, after the vaccine's approved, hopefully by the ACIP and CDC, that there'll be some more clear guidelines in different parts of the country. Maybe it's a website like what we saw earlier this year, or it's local community leaders saying, like, here is the location to get your site, because we know that the supply will be there. And the people needed to actually give the vaccines will be there as well. We just need to make sure that parents absolutely know that, hey, this is the place that I can go. And, the reason why so many of us are excited about this distribution plan is because some of these family practice doctors, pediatricians, these community health leaders are the people who have these conversations with parents. They've already built up this longstanding dialogue and trust with these families, and they are the ones who should be answering the questions about the vaccines and giving them out.
All right, so do you think parents, no matter where they decide to have their kids actually vaccinated, and maybe it's at their school site or pharmacy, should still talk to their doctor first? Do you think everyone should do that? Because are there some folks who perhaps shouldn't get the vaccine? Or do you think if you have a 5 to 11-year-old, just get it? Doesn't matter what your particular circumstances, whether you have some other health condition or anything.
Well, I think everyone out there, even the people I know who said, you know what, I'm going to run out and immediately get the shot, are still thinking about their circumstances, because that plays a part into the decision. And, I would implore any parents out there, if you have questions, if you have one question, if you have 1,000 questions, to go to a trusted source to talk about it, because some of the questions that parents want to ask are things about the safety profile and if it actually works. And then they want to know things like, hey, what does the vaccination rate look like in your community? What does transmission look like in your community? What about your friends and families? Are they potentially going to spread COVID-19? Does this cover the Delta variant? There's all these questions. And you know what? Parents should be comfortable enough to go and ask these questions to their primary healthcare providers. And I would absolutely encourage that.
Okay, so you got Dr. Patel you can ask when you're watching the show, or talk to your pediatrician. Here's a question from a viewer named Mark. He's wondering if this shot for children will also be recommended for kids who are immunocompromised or have health conditions such as autism or Down syndrome.
From what we know so far, it will be the same shot. So this is actually an important note, because there's been a couple of questions that have arisen to the FDA saying, hey, why wasn't this looked at in terms of certain subgroups, or saying, children with certain underlying medical conditions should get the shot where others shouldn't get the shot. And that's because generally the data we've seen in terms of kids getting infected or kids developing long hauler symptoms has been very broad. A lot of kids out there have gotten COVID-19 or have wound up hospitalized. Yes, those kids with underlying medical conditions have had a higher risk of severe illness, but it shouldn't necessarily be limited to those children as well. And I think this is something that's going to be interesting to see what this advisory committee on immunization practices, if they have any additional notes on children who have underlying medical conditions. But that's a subgroup, Kristen, of children whose parents have absolutely said, we cannot wait for this vaccine to be available because their kids are at increased risk.
I mean, I definitely know here in the Bay Area, a lot of parents can't wait to get their kids vaccinated. They're booking appointments already, but that is not the case everywhere. And so that is why we have a lot more questions that we want to ask you about. We'll take a short break, but during the break, you can join us on Facebook or YouTube so that we can pose your questions to Dr. Alok Patel. Don't go away. We will be right back. Oh, by the way, when we come back, we really want to deep dive into myocarditis and just other things that people have questions about, right? Is this going to cause infertility, this and that? We'll be right back. All right, here we are.
I shouldn't have been smiling when you said that, but you were like, ah.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's because, did you see I'm not wearing it now, but I was dressed as the red light, green light girl from Squid Game. You saw that. I know, because you
I saw that.
Twitter,
and
right?
I don't ever want to see that picture again, because that is
freaking me out.
That doll creature robot thing is so horrifying. I just hear the red light, green light voice now.
I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you, but somehow walking around when I went to pick up my lunch wearing that, I felt really sassy. Like people couldn't mess with me. I felt like really powerful. Oh, there it is.
Oh!
Okay, now we're scaring our viewers. Okay.
I wouldn't mess with you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so tell me if you watch Squid Game, folks. Tell me if you like my costume. Tell me if I win the Halloween costume. No, but I can't beat Elora. She was so cute. I want to share with you some of our viewer comments here. Not the ones about my outfit, but just about, the vaccine. Okay, so Vanessa wants to know if it works so well, why the booster shots?
Great question. And so, the definition of working well, as what we wanted to see in the beginning of the vaccine rollout, was that it prevents against severe hospitalizations and deaths, which it still absolutely is doing. What the booster shots were really trying to address was that waning immunity that were causing more people to test positive, but still not necessarily develop severe hospitalizations or die from it. It's just the fact that, hey, it's possible that the antibody levels are going down after a certain amount of time, and that might lead to more transmission later on. It's almost like trying to get ahead of the curve. And truth be told, there's a lot of vaccines out there that require a 3-dose series, and it's entirely possible that this one did all along, but it's still an incredibly effective vaccine. I like that question because it's something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. All right, Peggy, I see your question. I will pose that when we come back because we got 9 seconds here before we come back on TV. All right. We are back with ABC 7 News special correspondent Dr. Alok Patel, who's got another round of 2 truths and a lie for us.
Yes, we do. Viewers, you know what to do. Tell us which one of these is not true. Is it A, according to a new CDC study, unvaccinated people with previous infections were 5 times more likely to get hospitalized than the vaccinated? Or is it B, GlaxoSmithKline signed a deal allowing the COVID-19 pill to be made, sold cheaply in developing countries? Or is it C, the amount of boosters given out worldwide is 3 times the amount of the primary vaccine given in lower income countries? This is according to the World Health Organization. Which one of these is not true?
Oh, gosh. Okay, you did make the second round harder, and I applaud you for that. Although, don't make me turn my squid girl eyes on you.
Our viewers are way too savvy.
They are really savvy. Okay, so let's see what viewers are saying here. Weigh in. Tom says B. Ray says B. I was going to cross out C because I think sadly that is true, indicating the inequities that we have right now with regard to access to vaccine around the world. And A sounds true to me as well, so I'm going to rule that out. Whereas B, I think it was not GlaxoSmithKline. There's something about it that doesn't feel like it's accurate. So I'm going to go with our viewers who mostly say B.
Come on, it is B. Randy, Tom, you guys are too fast. It's Merck. It is Merck. So it's, this is that pill, Molnupiravir. I think I'm saying that right. And, I would much rather, a lot of people would rather see us have had equitable vaccine distribution early on, but it is a good move that Merck is saying, hey, let's at least get good protection out there for people who are getting COVID-19 developing countries. Even though they signed this sub-license, hopefully we see it go into effect and we see those countries get that protection. But, see, this is a tweet that came out this morning from the World Health Organization, and it's alarming if you look at the fact that about 1 million boosters are being given out per day, whereas there's about 330,000 primary vaccines being given out per day in lower income countries. And A should put to rest that long-standing belief over the past 6 months that, hey, natural immunity is better than vaccine-acquired immunity. It's important to note that natural immunity does exist. That is a real thing, but it comes in such a variety, depending if you had a severe illness versus a mild illness, that it is the recommendation, whether or not you had COVID-19 in the past, still go and get vaccinated.
All right. Thank you for addressing that and acknowledging that, natural immunity is a thing, but less dependable and not necessarily as protective. All right. So that's good to remember, right? Okay. So I want to ask you about myocarditis because, addressing parents' fears with regard to getting their kids vaccinated, that is one thing that comes up time and time again. That's, and Brown here says, look, people are getting heart palpitations just from getting 2 shots of the Pfizer. Imagine getting a third dose. So they're talking about booster. But with regard to kids, let's talk about that, right? Does the vaccine actually reduce your teens' chances of, getting myocarditis because it reduces your chances for COVID? Or is there actually some sort of negative association between getting the vaccine itself and myocarditis? Is there any data?
There is data, Kristen. And, one thing that's confusing for parents is that there is so many different studies out there. And, we've seen numbers saying such as the odds of getting myocarditis or pericarditis, the inflammation of the heart or the sac around the heart from the COVID-19 vaccine, is as low as about 7 to 10 out of 100,000. I've seen some numbers saying 1 in a million. I've seen some numbers saying 1 in 10,000. But overall, and according to a CDC study from fall, kids are 16 times more likely to get myocarditis from COVID-19 itself than from the actual vaccine. And, a couple important things to note here is that in older children, so those 12 to 17, the few cases of myocarditis that were noted after the COVID-19 shot happened about 1 month after the second dose of the vaccine. And all these cases were self-limiting, meaning these kids were maybe hospitalized, maybe not, and they all recovered with basic supportive care. Whereas the heart inflammation that we've seen in young kids from COVID-19 has ranged from self-limiting to kids needing to be in the ICU. Extremely serious cases. And, the people to speak most about this are pediatric cardiologists who have gone on record and saying, like, I will show you structural heart changes that have happened from COVID-19, and it far exceeds the theoretical risk from the actual vaccine itself. So I would absolutely give this shot to my own child if it was available. For Alora's only 6 months, but if it was available to her, because of how confident I am in the safety profile when it comes to myocarditis and protecting her against myocarditis that you can get from COVID-19.
All right, good to know. Look, another concern for parents, they talk about potential long-term side effects, right? We just don't know. And one of the things that they bring up is infertility. Any light you can shed on that?
Yeah, and, this all started from a misinformation campaign, if you will, that came out of Europe. But there is no evidence to date that this vaccine can cause any type of long-term infertility issues. If you kind of wind back to mRNA technology 101, the vaccine is creating a map of a spike protein, that little thing on the outside of the coronavirus. And then the actual mRNA that you inject in the body, it gets degraded, it's gone. So all that you basically have is a boosted immune response for that one spike protein. There is no plausible mechanism for how this can actually go and then affect a child's fertility. It's confusing for some people out there when you see these reports on social media, but the bottom line is I've actually talked to some immunologists who have taken a step back and said, I can't even fathom how to create a vaccine to target SARS-CoV-2 and then also go and target the human reproductive system, even if they wanted to in some twisted world.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Look, another thing parents who are hesitant point to is that kids really do seem to be better defended against COVID, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but of 73 million kids in the U.S., I think fewer than 700 have died from COVID. That is 1 in 100,000, right? So is it fair for parents to say, look, I like those odds. Why should I take the risk if they view the vaccine as risky? I know that is the part where people disagree on, right, whether it's risky or not. But what if they just say 1 in 100,000? I'll live with that.
And I'm actually happy that number is that low. But remember, that number is only talking about deaths. What it's not talking about is kids getting mild symptoms and potentially developing long COVID, which I have seen innumerable cases of long COVID, but also kids getting the inflammatory condition, kids needing to be hospitalized, also transmission, Kristen, which is another big deal because we know that this large age group of kids 5 to 11 can still propagate the virus in certain communities and get people who are higher risk or older populations sick as well. But another thing to consider too is that this risk benefit is absolutely taken into account when the FDA and the CDC sit down and look at these populations. They look at the population and say, hey, okay, what is the risk that 5 to 11-year-olds face when it comes to dealing with the pandemic? And it's obviously different than when you're talking about an elderly population or people who are older and have heart disease, lung disease, for example. That's taken into account. And they still come out and determine that the risk of this is the benefit far outweighs the risk. And this will be a different conversation when the FDA meets to talk about younger kids, age 2 to 5 and age 6 months to 2. And so as far as we stand right now, what I recommend parents think about is more than just that death factor. Because the last thing we want to do is ignore a child who got COVID-19, spread it to somebody else, developed long hauler symptoms, maybe wound up in the ICU, but survived and that wasn't considered to be a significant statistic.
All right. I mean, most people as parents, certainly you and I, wouldn't want to see our kids even hospitalized or suffer any serious symptoms. But what about Marie, who says, my granddaughter is in first grade. She had it and didn't have no shot. That is what she said. So first grade, didn't have any shots. She was okay. I'm not sure what she means by okay, but I'm assuming that meant either mild or asymptomatic. That is the majority of the kids who are infected, no?
It's a lot of the kids who are infected, and I'm actually glad that that's the course somebody like Marie's daughter had if she were to get COVID-19. No, I can't say that for every child, and I also can't tell you that every child who has an asymptomatic infection or has a mild infection won't go on to spread it to somebody else or won't go on to develop long COVID, because I have personally taken care of kids who have had a couple weeks, if not a couple months, of shortness of breath, a tight chest, headaches, fatigue, and we've suspected long COVID, and their initial infection was just a positive test and no actual symptoms. And so again, parents who are in this situation, these are those times when I'm saying, you know what, this is a great question. Please go and talk to your pediatrician, your family practice doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, a friend who got their child vaccinated, and just ask these questions and get some more opinions about this. Because just because you got it in the past, remember, you're also not protected in the future. But we don't know what's going to happen in winter. Like, I'm hoping cases continue to go down, but could there be another subvariant?
Right.
Could there be an outbreak in your community? Absolutely.
All right, we got 10 seconds. Can you get the flu shot and the vaccine for the kids at the same time?
You can.
Okay.
And I hope the CDC addresses this next week.
All right.
And you should if your child hasn't gotten the flu shot yet.
Dr. Alok Patel, always great talking with you. Glad me and the audience were able to beat you both times with both two truths and a lie sets.
I'm not surprised. Y'all are brilliant. Happy Halloween.
All right, thank you. You too. Coming up next, we'll take you to a local business that got creative with outdoor parklets during the pandemic, and now she's being honored for it. We'll be right back. All right, audience, we did it. We got both sets of the questions and answers correct. Woohoo. All right, should we let our audience enjoy a lovely slate? The San Francisco Chamber of Commerce honors businesses for their innovation in an awards show called the Ebbies. And Danielle Kucinich is one of those winners. She is owner of the San Francisco Wine Society. Good afternoon, Danielle. Thanks for joining us, and a big congratulations.
Thank you, Kristen.
All right, so tell us about winning the Ebbies. What does it mean to you as a business to capture this award given to you for your creativity during the pandemic?
It means a lot. I mean, building out that parklet was challenging, to say the least, just design-wise, from so many different elements. But we really wanted to make sure that people felt as comfortable inside as they felt outside. And so to be recognized for that creativity. It means so much to us.
All right, we are showing video, Danielle, of the parklet that you were referring to for which you won. The design is spectacular. And really, you wouldn't guess that that was outside. It feels like homey.
When I sent the video to my dad, he was like, wow, you really changed the interior a lot. And I was like, no, Dad, that's actually the outside. So, yes.
All right, tell folks about SF Wine Society. I myself am not a drinker, but what is the business, what is your main mission and what do you offer clients, not customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So San Francisco Wine Society is a wine bar in the financial district. We pour about 45 wines by the glass. We do about 13 different flights. We really want people to come in and enjoy wines, try wines that they've never had before. And all of our flights are named really interesting and creative things so that it kind of takes away the pretentiousness in wine and people feel more comfortable about ordering things that they normally would be nervous about ordering. We have an outdoor bocce ball court. We have a bunch of small bites. So it's really fun wine bar.
Look, you've only been open, less than a year. How would things have been different for you, you think, if you actually opened during a very different time, well before the pandemic?
Things have been different. I mean, I've actually been in this location for about 10 years. So even though San Francisco Wine Society is only about a year old, there's a lot of differences, I would say, pre-COVID to now. I do feel like the financial district is more neighborhoody than it was when I was here before. I think that people are just starting to come back out now. We knew that this year was going to be challenging, but we also know what this space can do. And so even though it's been a little bit slow of a start, the type of clientele that we have coming in, the regulars that we have been extremely supportive. And it's actually been a wonderful treat to be back in this neighborhood.
All right, Danielle Kucinich, don't go away because I would love for you to give our viewers a tour. I think we may have to take that over onto YouTube and Facebook Live because we got to take a short commercial break. But would you do that for us? Can we go on a little tour? You're in a good spot to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well,
yeah.
All right, we'll be right back.
Thanks.
All right, so yeah, walk us around. Show us I know you're in your indoor space right now. This is not the parklet. The parklet looks amazingly.
We are.
Inside-ish, but let's take a look.
Yeah, it might not be the smoothest transition, but we will do our best. Okay, let's see. Outside.
And folks, we don't need to see me. Let's go full on, Danielle, so we can get a better sense for the space.
Okay, so this is the parklet. Here, you can see there's already people out here enjoying it today. Yeah.
So Danielle,
got a good view of it.
This looks so comfortable. Can I just ask you, I mean, you're not going to take this down, right? Can it stay?
No, hopefully it's permanent. I mean, that's our understanding of it now is that it's actually that San Francisco, I believe, is going to make them permanent. So. Okay. That's our hope.
Yeah, because I can tell you invested quite a bit into, making yours pretty extra. It looks amazing.
We did. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just ask you, is everything fully open, every aspect of your business?
Every aspect of the business is fully open. The main living room area isn't, we're not seating it fully yet just because of the furniture design. But as of November 9th, we will be seating fully inside.
Got it. All right. But really, look at this. I mean, there's no reason to go anywhere else. That parklet is it. Down to the chandeliers and the fireplace. By the way, I just want to say,
fun.
Danielle, my colleague Spencer Christian just popped over to say, Danielle's great. She's a friend of mine. Say hello. So Spencer says hello.
He's great.
Spencer, pop
tell him
over.
I said hello. He's
We're
great.
on Facebook Live. We have real quick.
Hey, Danielle. How you doing?
Hi, how are you? I'm good. Hi, Spencer. Nice to see you too.
Right. But Spencer will have to come visit soon. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on this interactive show, Getting Answers. The big news today, the FDA authorized the Pfizer COVID vaccine for children ages 5 to 11, bringing it just 2 steps away from going into young arms, likely before the end of next week. Today we cover that topic, vaccine hesitancy from parents, and all other COVID-19 headlines. We'll be here every weekday at 3 on air and on live stream answering your questions. World News Tonight is coming up next. Have a great Halloween. Bye-bye.